the small projects program. And at this point, I'll turn it over to you for any questions and comments.
Any questions for the city manager before I ask for public participation?
Yes. Since I'm the originator of this
Oh, yeah, I'm well aware of it,
recommendation.
Mr. Bacon. I was going to jump to you immediately anyway.
All right.
Okay, sir?
I
Go
have a
ahead.
statement to make about it, a short one. You have Exhibit A, I guess it's in here. It shows you specifically the 36 items. We've already attacked nine of them, which about $900,000. We budget $250,000. I spoke with a major CPA firm that specializes in audits of municipalities, and they say we should not touch this project unless we are liable for the situation, that the project is out of trust with the responsibilities of city government, which prohibits to spend $4 million in philanthropic work, assuming all the projects indicated have no liability caused by the city or improperly approved by the buildings department that issued permits to build the house in wetlands. I asked that the accountant be here to give an opinion on how this matter would impact our financials, because there's a clarity in it now where there is no particular liability perhaps involved, and it's a voluntary issue, which has some financial statement possible implications. Since he is not here, I would stop all further discussion on this subject until we can get an opinion about whether this is going to cause establishing reserves or footnotes that are material, that will reflect the material liability. In summary, it's unfair for the citizens to support this project. If in doubt, we should wait for a referendum on the community center and add this question, which this project should continue. Should this project be continued? The overall stormwater budget needs scrutiny because causing charges to commercial property owners and all of us is unfair without the evaluation of a detailed budget and where we're headed with it. I don't. That's my opinion.
No, I'm going to let you hit it because there's several questions. Okay, Mr. Bacon, the first one, sir. Then I'll give it to Mr. McLemore. Sir, legal. Mr. Bacon made an argument or discussion in reference that what we're doing could be illegal. Do you have any?
As I understand Councilmember Bacon's argument is that the city would have no legal responsibility to solve the stormwater issues in the city of DeBary, which is, as everyone knows, has experienced substantial flooding on a number of occasions. I would point out that the comprehensive plan of the city, policy 7C.101, says the city will continue improving stormwater management facilities to serve developed areas. Policy 7C.102, the city will consider using funds from a variety of sources to help finance improvements to the stormwater management system. Sources may include stormwater utility revenue. Policy 7C.103, that the highest priority will be given to providing services in developed areas experiencing structural flooding. And then my recollection is that these small projects were presented by Public Works, and that the stormwater assessment was considered and approved with that information in mind. And so I think you all do have some discretion as a council to make some changes to these small-scale projects. But I would just caution you that we would want to get with engineering if you do want to make changes, just in view of the fact that we do have the rates were set with all these projects in mind. And I'm not sure, and it just occurred to me, I don't know if any of the small-scale projects are being funded by the bonds that were put into place. Okay, thank you.
Okay. City Manager, Mr. McLemore.
The question on whether you do this or not, are you obligated to do this? There's no law that I'm aware of that says you have to do it. That's a council policy decision. That policy is reflected in your comprehensive plan, which is approved by the state of Florida. That whole stormwater issue was driven by the floods that you had several years ago. Millions of dollars have been spent on it. Most of the job has been done. This is to finish up the program with the smaller, less expensive projects, but it's your house involved, it's important. So of an agreement, believe it or not, Mr. Bacon, you don't have to do this. You do it as a matter of a moral responsibility and to treat people in your city equally. So you got projects left that have been promised to people who have problems. We're addressing that through the plan as provided by your comp plan. This issue about all this counting stuff is your auditor sent you a very detailed report a few months back describing the situation. I know Mr. Bacon spent an hour with him last week or so, and he's just frustrated. He doesn't know what to do. You do not have contingent liabilities here, and this is a policy decision. It's not a statutory decision. It's a policy decision by this council as to whether you want to continue this program or not. You will have your opinions from the CPA that you have chosen and appointed, not one that's gone out and been shopped. So that will be available for you with discussions with him again on this in March. So the question is, do you continue your program as a policy decision and a responsibility to the people of this city who are having problems, or are you going to stop with some bean counter reason? So that's where I'm at on it, and I'm recommending very seriously you do what you said you were going to do, and what you said you were going to do is finish these projects. That's all I have to say.
Okay,
Mayor,
that
can I
being said,
respond?
wait, when we bring up the motion, if you have additional questions.
There was some false statements made. I need to comment
Everyone
on
should
what
get
he
a chance
said.
to speak first.
I'm the accountant. When I say there's a contingent liability.
Wait. Here, at this sitting here, sir, you're not an accountant, you're a council member.
Right.
First.
Right.
Okay? And you're addressing city business, but, okay, I will allow one more round for a follow-up
All right,
question. I have the residents to speak, and then you still got a motion where at that time you could bring these questions up again if you wish to at that time. But I'm going to allow, and you have already spoken one time, Mr. Brady to go first.
Actually, if you wanted to have public participation.
And then we wait for the motion, and then you'll discuss it? Okay. How about you, sir? You want to bring it up now, or do you want to?
I would just like to make a couple of points so the public understands also what this is all about. I made a serious recommendation.
But yes, okay.
About, one second, sir. A serious recommendation of putting this in a referendum. It's
Sir.
their money, and the accountant
Sir.
has not made an opinion on this subject. That's why he should have been here tonight. I spoke with him 6 months ago.
Mr. Bacon.
Okay.
You will have a turn when the motion comes up,
Okay.
if you want to discuss this at that time with the whole council, because it appears that you want action to be taken. So the only way to do that is if we do it in a form of a motion, and the council and you agree, or you could convince the council to agree with you. Right now, we're going to move on. Okay, we have public participation. I believe we have two, and the first one is Mr. Howard Gates. Mr. Gates, would you kindly state your name and address for the record?
Howard Gates, 34 Sunset Drive. I'm baffled that a council member would suggest we consult an accountant to deal with stormwater issues. That's just ridiculous. The city assumed the responsibility to protect its citizens from damage like this. Nobody's built houses in wetlands. Nobody's built houses in unimproved areas. These are just situations that have arisen out of many factors. And every one of these projects that I looked at on the list is in the southeast quadrant, which was the original area of DeBary built before there were stormwater systems. That's correct. So we have to make changes. To suggest that the city should not help these residents is ridiculous. It is the responsibility of this council to help these people. Now, there are several of these projects that I agree with. One of the things I read that said the houses should probably be bought, maybe two, make a pond, because there are areas that are lower than the 5 lots around them and the water all goes there. You're never going to fix those areas without adding a pump station of some sort, which would be $400,000 to $500,000 So you're going to have to do some bad or some rough and ask people to move out and offer them a fair value and help them move to fix these problems. But to suggest the city should not take this on is just preposterous. You have to address these situations. So please go forward. Keep the funding in your budget year to year. Be smart about it. Ask people to move out and pay them a fair price for their home and help them move out so you can take these houses and make them into some small ponds. That's the only way you're going to fix this problem. And it has to be done. You cannot turn your back on these people. Thank you.
The next one is Mr. Mort Culligan. Mr. Culligan, would you kindly state your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is Mort Culligan, 66 Tanglewood Road in DeBary, Florida. And a moral issue, a moral responsibility issue is brought up about this. And I think the City Council has a moral responsibility to the rest of the taxpayers that get a shakedown off of this. We are sick of paying for people that bought low-down lots, cheap lots on low areas. That is their problem. If they didn't look at their property first, that's their problem. We have weather issues, and we didn't do it. It's not the citizens of DeBary. I don't have any stormwater problems, but I have to pay for everybody else's. For the $50 million, I think it's something like $50 million already. We have notes going all the way to 2028. 2012, we have to pay on this, and that's just not enough. Now we have $4 million more, because some of these people, they're just whiners. They have a little puddle in their backyard. I know several of these issues over here. One person bought this property, and it was previously damaged, obviously damaged, and he wants a bailout on it. That's all. This property was damaged. It's right here. All this stuff right here. Who's going to be the winner off of this stuff? A lot of these people that bought this cheap property and don't deserve a bailout, Pegasus Engineering is going to make money on it. They don't bid on anything. They've been with the city for years. They say this is like just no big deal. It's only $4 million. Because Pegasus Engineering is making money for the city, as they should. Who's to cut the cards with them? Look at some of these projects. There's one on 25 Lake Road. It's just a little low area in her driveway because she bought it that way, and that's her problem. You have the one on Sunshine State of Florida, on 11 Plantation Road. They made $6 million last year tax-free, and they have a problem. Poor them. Why don't you think about the people who have to pay for this? I don't care about some of these people, but by the same token, there are some of these things that deserve attention, and maybe they do deserve relief. On South Shell Road, you had the Sunrail build up all that property, and now it doesn't drain properly. Now they have a legitimate situation where the city should help them. But most of this stuff is a bunch of whiners from the country clubs. A lot of this is all from Glen Abbey and stuff like that. These people bought that land before the city was a city. They realized how low it was, and that's their problem. Where's their personal responsibility? Why should I pay for their problems? They don't pay for my problems. Orlandia Heights had road problems. Who were the first people to say, oh, that's your problem? It was the people in these subdivisions. They don't care about my problems, but I'm supposed to pay for their problems. So we had road problems. We have to pay for it, right? The people out on Fort Florida Road or River Road had problems. They didn't have any water, so they had to run a thing there. They had to pay for it. Now, why can't we? If these people are so, these claims of this is ridiculous. These people want a bailout, and you have a duty and responsibility to protect the rest of the citizens from people that want a bailout. Everybody wants something free from the city, and they say, "Oh, well, we have a moral responsibility to the rest of the taxpayers." I don't care about these people. Now, in some situations, there might be a valid argument. Each one of these things needs to be looked at individually. The city has already spent like $50 million. We doubled the stormwater fees on ourselves, and we want more. The city of DeBary is a low city. It sits low. People came in here and bought this and didn't pay any attention, and that's their problem. It is their problem. Now, one of the situations here is that, as I say, Orlandia Heights, they had a problem with their roads. Okay, we set up a special tax district, and we have to pay for it. We got it stuffed right back down our throats. Same thing with the people on Fort Florida Road. So why don't you just take all these addresses and say, okay, special taxing district, let's see you pay for some of this, and then see how many people drop off of there. You should make it very difficult for these people to get a bailout. And you shouldn't buy any of these houses. I know one of these houses on this list. The guy bought it. It's on, I forget what road it's on. And it was previously had damage. And he bought it. And he asked me personally, he said, do you think the city of DeBary would bail me out on this? And I said, the city of DeBary will say yes to anything. They never, ever back up the taxpayer. They always think about the whiners like these guys. We owe them absolutely nothing in most of these cases. Now, there might be one or two of these that they need some attention, but you need to go case by case. And whatever happens, Pegasus Engineer is going to make money. They have never stopped making money. No bid contracts, correct? Anybody bidding on this? Who's bidding on it? Nobody. It's just one engineering company, and they're handling everything.
Thank you, Ms. Sculligan. Thank you very much for your comments. Okay. Before we get into this on it, will someone entertain a motion?
I'd like discussion.
Yeah, we're going to do the discussion after the motion. Or, what are you saying, Mr. Brady?
Well, I was going to introduce a motion to table,
Oh, you're going to introduce.
so I'd rather have discussion first,
Oh, you want to have? Okay.
if it pleases
The chair finds no objections to Mr. Brady wanting to have a discussion before he tables an issue. Okay, if I allowed it for you, Mr. Bacon, I'm going to allow it for him also, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Brady?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This council and prior council has endorsed this program many times, and I don't see any reason that's brought forward tonight to change that, and I'm not in favor of changing the comp plan. And I wanted to ask Mr. Geller, did you happen to read 7C 103 in your intro?
I did.
Okay. I had that written down also, as well as 7C 101. And what caught my attention on 7C 103 was it went on to say the highest priority of this program, if you institute this program, will be given to providing services in developed areas experiencing structural flooding. I think that's what this program is. I think that's us adhering to what is written in our comp plan. Again, we've endorsed this program many times, this council included, and for my money, I would, as a motion, move to table this issue to an uncertain date, and I'm looking for a second on that motion.
But do you want an answer from legal? Did he read
I
it
didn't
and stuff
ask,
like that?
no, I didn't ask.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Mr. Councilman Brady would like to table this motion with no uncertain date to move forward with it.
Second.
Do I hear a second?
Yes, sir.
Now there's a discussion. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to,
Ladies first.
okay. Vice Mayor?
Yes, sir. In reviewing the stormwater issue, it's been reviewed 5 out of 12 months in 2017. April 19th, April 26th, May 10th, June 14th, and November 1st. This is an ongoing program. Constituents voted and approved on a referendum to give authorization to the city to pursue bonds in order to implement a multi-year stormwater capital improvement program. Much time, I imagine staff time, extended staff time, Mr. Hamster, his staff, the city attorney, and I am probably accurate in assuming probably another attorney in your staff and other folks in your law practice. The money spent on tonight's issue most likely could have afforded some of the things that we just talked about in budget. And you know what? This issue has been discussed enough and reviewed enough that I don't think it should be table to an uncertain time. This is ridiculous. And I would like, if you would please, Mr. City Manager, if you get a chance, would you please get me how much everybody has spent on this for tonight's item? This is crazy. I'm sure 2 attorneys plus staff, everything else, this is just ridiculous. That's all I have to say on the subject.
Councilman Bacon.
First of all, this is not part of the stormwater system.
I'm sorry, what was that? Yeah, your mic might be off, sir.
Sorry. This is not part of the stormwater system that you are talking about. This is an ancillary issue. Now, that's just the point. The second is there is accounting issues involved. Please take that into consideration. It could stop us from actually getting a loan, possibly, for the community center. This is my opinion. It is it's a contingent liability. It wasn't a contingent liability when it wasn't defined, but now it's defined, and the accountant, can give an opinion. That's why I asked for him to be here. Mr. Macklin, our city manager, is not an accountant. He can't give a professional opinion whether something and how it's going to be reflected on the financial statement. So this is not a small change item. It's $4 million. The people, this is the people's money. They should make the decision, not 5 of us on the council. They should make the decision. That's what this is all about. That's my opinion, sir.
You have a rebuttal over here, but wait, before I allow the Vice Mayor, does somebody else that hadn't had an opportunity to speak would like to speak? Councilwoman Benefield?
Thank you, Mayor. I feel that the reason, I just want clarification, that's all I need in order to vote. If we table this without a date, Attorney, that means that we will not discuss the option. We will continue helping the small projects as agreed. Is that correct?
It will go on as yeah.
Okay, is there a need to table it? Can we just vote?
That's what it is in front of you.
The only problem with tabling is that it can be brought back up at any time. Every week, he or you or anybody else can put it back on the table, or try to get a vote to put it back on the table.
So by tabling it indefinitely means we will never bring up this year.
Until you get a vote from this council to bring it back on the table.
But
that can
the
be-
projects continue.
Oh, yeah. The decision is continued.
Okay, that's all I
But you
have.
haven't taken an action.
That's all I have. Thank you.
And because of your comp plan. Am I correct, legal? The clarity of the comp plan states that we must have something in place.
Yes.
And that's what Mr. Brady read under that section.
That's
Am I
right.
correct?
That's right. You would have to change the comp plan
In order to do, basically,
in order to discontinue the project.
right, okay. That being the, okay. Vice Mayor, I know you almost jumped off your chair. Yes, you have something you would like to say, and I'm sorry I didn't afford you the opportunity immediately.
No, I just want to say, this is not a dictatorship. The majority of, this is a democracy. The majority of this council has spoken, pretty much.
I agree.
Okay. Now, David. You knew you were going to get called. Come here, sir, for the minute. Would you kindly state your name and address for the record? For clarity on this, I've been involved with the stormwater since day one. David, I have a couple of questions for you just for clarity. If we look at these small stormwater projects, when we first originated in doing this development, I'm going to get for a yes and no answer unless you want to clarify it, okay? We agreed that we would take care of the major stormwater projects that we had to address to take care of the most people at one time. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Number 2, you identified all of these and we gave us a complete list, and then at that time you categorized them as priority 1, 2, and 3. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
When we did turn around and we said, this is what it was going to cost us to do item 1, which was a major, that's the one that covered most of the areas and everything. When we get done with that, we're going to move on to the next one. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
At that time, the ones that were left over, they came before us and they said, are you going to continue to address these projects? And at that time, the council at that time says yes. Am I correct?
That's a correct statement.
When we became a city, okay, the county had a stormwater system in place, but it was not one for stormwater. It was actually virtually nothing. It said there was something the county had, but nobody was actually addressing the stormwater issues in the city of DeBary, based on my records of reviewing it. It wasn't until we were hit with a major storm that we decided to come up with the $10 million to address it. We always knew since day one that $10 million was not going to guarantee to complete all these projects. That is a fact. That's not something I'm making up. Am I correct, David? And the reason...
Actually, we had a voter referendum.
Right.
In 2005.
Mm-hmm.
The voters voted to
Taxes.
pursue bonds, to implement the capital program, and then pay that back through a payment program, which was a stormwater assessment.
Now, you look at from 2005 until when we actually started moving on these projects and everything, the cost of everything has gone up, number one. Number two, okay, at the time, we had things that came up that at the time were not really in front of us in addressing this problem. Additional stuff that came up, okay? On your list that you have there right now of these small list projects, I looked at them. The majority of them were ones that we had discussed a while ago. I only see maybe 3 or 4 that are new on it. Am I correct on that?
The majority of them were 2004 originated, and then 2008, a few more got piggybacked on.
So the comments that we're adding new ones on here is not correct. I would say...
One or two a year we might get based on rainfall.
But I'm saying based on your what you did for us and you're bringing it up to us, like Vice Mayor said, we've discussed this last year, this year, and we're coming up against with it. That's when you turned around and told us that to do these projects, and you came back with $4 million, would cost us about $10 million when we actually go through all of it. Am I correct?
It was understood that it may take 20 years to do these projects.
That's correct. So based on that, it's hard to determine exactly how much it's going to cost us because the cost of everything is going up.
And we were not recommending a third bond. We were recommending that the small projects would be done based on the available funding from the stormwater assessment.
In other words, that's correct. We would include it in our annual budget of discussion on projects and how much money we were going to set aside to address these small stormwater projects. Am I correct?
That's correct, State.
Okay. That being said, I've asked you enough questions. Anybody else want to talk to David before he sits down? Okay. I'm sorry. City Manager.
One more comment when you're through, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
David, most of these remaining projects are on this side of the city, the older part of the city.
The majority of the remaining projects are the southeast quadrant of DeBary.
This is the older part of the city, right?
Yes, sir.
And do we have a concentration of senior people in that area?
Probably.
And do we have a concentration of lower income people in that area?
I would expect so, yes, sir.
Can you tell me if they've been paying this stormwater fee over the years,
They've been paying.
like everybody else?
Yes, sir.
And they do not have their projects done, right?
Not at this point, yes.
So
There's a few of them.
we're going to say these people, well, you've been paying all these years, but you haven't got your project, but we're just going to do away with the program. Is that what's on the table here? These people have been paying, they deserve, just like, and I've heard it and you've heard it too, well, over on the rich side of town, you took care of them, and here we are, you haven't taken care of us, but we've been paying just like everybody else. It ain't fair. It's just not fair. Thank you.
Any further questions for David or the city manager? Okay. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, we have a motion, am I correct, to table before we even vote on the main motion. Mr. Brady is putting a motion to table this with uncertainty.
My question was whether or not a motion to table is what we need, or is a motion to endorse the program once again a stronger motion?
Okay.
And does the attorney or chair have an opinion on that?
I think once it's tabled, it's got to be approved by the entire council, put it back on the table.
Okay, well, then I'll stick with the present motion then.
The present motion is to table.
Table it to a
If
date.
someone walks in my office and says, put this on agenda, I'm not going to do it.
Good.
It's going to have to come from somebody, this council, bring it up to the council at a meeting, and that council's got to agree before it comes back on,
Good.
It was just tabled by a council member.
indefinitely.
And let me ask you a question,
Am I wrong?
to make sure, under Robert's Rules of Order, whoever tables is the one that has the, and I think I'm correct, would be the one to have to remove it off the tabling. Read it there, see if I'm correct.
I don't think so.
No, if you do it, I believe you're the one that has to turn around and bring it back on the motion, I think. I could be wrong. On a table motion, the one that motions it, does the main motion on it.
This is in regards to my question, because if we voted to just approve the projects as continued, if one person votes no, they can't bring it back up. But someone who votes yes, with the majority, or whatever the vote of the majority is, that person can bring it back up. So that's why I was confused by tabling it indefinitely, because I thought that once you table it, you have to give a date to bring it back.
No.
You don't.
You can
Okay.
table to a date certain or indefinitely.
Okay, so we have two
Probably
options.
things in the Congress been
And
sitting there for 150
And to
years.
answer your question, that's why I'm asking the question there.
Okay.
If you vote no, okay, then do you have a right to bring it up, or it's only the people that vote
Only-
yes? Wait,
only
so
the
I wanted the
majority.
clarity first in reference to the motion,
Yeah.
72,
to make sure on it.
tabling, 77, I'm sorry.
Now, you have to remember that you always have the right by vote of the council to suspend the rules.
That's correct. And one more time, Robert's Rules of Order is a guideline for the city. It's not written in script that you follow. Mainly, it's only, Robert's Rules of Order is mainly to turn around and assist us in running a meeting, promotions and discussions, stuff like that. But as far as hard parliamentary procedures, like they have in Washington and stuff like that, that's not applicable to us.
Mr. Mayor, if the accountant brings up something really adverse in the future on our financials,
Well, then if
the door should be left open on this subject.
But, sir, you
that's
cannot
all I can
predict,
say.
you cannot predict what's going on in the future. If something comes up in the future that
No, not
turns
the future.
around.
This is not a
and-
future,
wait,
Mr. Mayor. It's an opinion.
Okay,
We
but-
need an opinion. That's why I asked he be here, to give an opinion.
Okay. But what I'm trying to say to you, if in the future, you didn't let me say it,
Yeah.
if in the future, let's say something did come up, some unforeseen come up, and we needed to turn around and say, guess what? We need to stop on the stormwater because we got another important priority coming up or other issues. I believe that at that time, the city manager or the council would say, listen, when we get ready to do budget, instead of budgeting for, I'm giving you hypothetically, $400,000 for this year, and we've done this before, David, we have not done projects for it. You see what I'm saying?
May I suggest we put that into the motion?
Well, the
That
motion,
if a situation arises, the council has
But-
an alternative.
but you're always going to have that alternative,
I'm
sir,
not-
during budget. That's all I'm saying.
You don't need to put it in a motion.
You don't need to
It's
put it in a
already-
motion.
it's already
That's what I'm
in
trying to
your
answer.
We could change it at any time? Is
At
that it?
any time you sit and you start going to your budgetary action
Yeah.
on how you budget, if the city manager says, to do the project that David is telling us is 300,000 or 400,000, the council recommends that he continues to do this, he'll add it in there. But if, let's say, prior to the budget, us approving the final budget, we sit here and we say, wait a minute, all of a sudden, we had hit with a major storm. And we have to pay a lot for the, he could turn around, the council could come back and say, guess what? Under the budget, okay, we're gonna stop stormwater because we have an emergency in front of us. You have that option as a council to do that.
Can I ask the financial officer a public question?
You can
About
answer a
this?
question because we're sitting here still waiting for an
All right.
answer.
May I ask you,
you
under
can-
the rules
you
of
can
generally
table-
accepted
double
accounting
check it.
principles for
Okay.
municipalities, if this was deemed
Okay.
a
Thank
contingent
you. So
liability,
then it rests on my
that
shoulder.
we have a liability of $4 million that has never been
You can
reflected on the financial statements before,
Okay?
what are the prospects for
Excuse
the
me.
accountant to
I'm sorry,
establish?
Mr. Bacon. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Okay? It was called for the question of the motion that's on the floor to table.
You
So
can't
that-
call a question without 75% of the approving that motion. That's a motion.
Okay?
You just can't call it like that. It's in Robert's rules. 75%, that's three of us have to approve that to call a motion. Okay?
And that's correct. In the opinion of the chair, if he says move for the motion, I look to see if the rest of them agree, and then we move for the motion. If I don't get no more nods, we still continue. Am I correct, as a chair?
You may do that.
That's correct.
Can I finish my question, though?
No,
You
sir,
gave me a permission?
because I asked her to move a motion,
Okay.
and you're answering your question.
Is any of that
Okay.
helpful?
Okay? Does anybody object to the movement of the motion? Okay, sir, we have a motion on the floor from Mr. Brady to table this for indefinite amount of time. Okay?
Just
Am I
Google
correct, Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
It already seconded by Mr. Bacon.
Mr. Bacon, you second this to table it?
Just a clarification, but we can make a change if the circumstances require a change.
Listen, I have a motion on the floor. You need to, at this time, second it,
All
and then
right,
you can ask
okay.
questions, sir. Do you second it? Yes, right?
Yes.
already seconded
Okay. Now you can ask your question, Mr. Bacon.
Well, just in case there's an accrued liability of $4 million that goes on that financial statement, we may consider, putting it up
But that's not the
for
motion
public.
before you. The motion before you right now is you're asking the questions and go forward, is to table this with uncertainty. Okay? Any further discussion on this?
No.
We have a motion on the floor. Councilman Brady?
Yes.
Councilman Bacon?
Yes.
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 Yes. Does that solve that problem?
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Okay?
Answer your question.
I mean, no, I'm voting no, not to table.
We can.
Sure you can. You control the city.
Right.
You set policy, and you can change things as you think you need to, as long as you got 2 votes to go with you.
Okay. Clarity on that one. Okay? It's 4 yeses to table it. Am I correct? Okay? And I'm voting against it. I'm voting no. Okay? I think we should have moved forward, but that's irrelevant. It's got nothing to do with this. So it's 4-1. Okay? Okay, so it is tabled. Okay? That issue is resolved right now. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda. Okay? Which is councilman salary. City manager.
Oh, boy.